From the Library of Congress in Washington, D.C.
Good afternoon. Good afternoon. That's more like it. My name is Roberta Schaefer, and I have the pleasure every day of serving as the Associate Librarian for Library Services at the Library of Congress, which is the sponsor of this National Book Festival. And I am delighted to welcome you to the end process of a wonderful contest that has been running since the spring of the year with the DC Public Library. And this has been really made possible by my boss, who's sitting in the front row, James H. Billington. Dr. Billington, I wonder if you could just wave. And by Mickey Freeney, who is Head of Youth Services for the DC Public Library. Mickey? But the reality of this contest, A Book That Shaped Me, is that it is an enormous partnership as well as a promise. A partnership because it involves parents, it involves the public library, it involves the schools, the city, it involves other government entities, and it also involves every citizen in the city of Washington. And so it really spreads its net very widely. It's also a promise because we all know, no matter what we do in life, having the ability to read is a great gift that gives us wings to do anything. And so we are so delighted today to honor the 19 students who participated in this program. As many of you know, there are 24 branches of the DC Public Library placed throughout the city so that you can access them. And we had 19 branches participate, 81 participants. You did not have to be a resident of the city, and in fact, we had a few applicants who sent us essays from as far away as Arizona. A very wonderful panel of judges, whom you'll hear about in a few minutes, selected the finalists, the 3 finalists for today's contest. A Book That Shaped Me is also part of a greater program now underway at the Library of Congress that looks at books that shaped America, and we have a contest running, and we encourage you to go to our website or to our pavilion and vote on a book that you believe shaped America. And next we will be looking at the world. So, before I turn the podium over to Fred Bowen, I also want to introduce you to the others who are seated on the platform this afternoon. Fred Bowen from the Washington Post, Kids page, who served as our chief judge for this contest. David Rubenstein, who is an amazing philanthropist to this city, everything from the National Archives to the National Zoo. He has taken an interest in and shared his incredible knowledge and wealth, and we really appreciate that. And last but totally not least, Lola Pine from the Library of Congress staff, who has been with this contest from the moment it was conceived with the DC Public Library. So without further ado, I would like to turn the podium over to Fred Bowen to say a few words about the judges.
Thank you. That's right, my name is Fred Bowen, and I do a few things. First, I write sports books for kids that combine sports fiction and sports history. And I also write a weekly sports column for the Kids Post page of the Washington Post. By the way, who reads the Kids Post page? Very good. I feel like I'm among friends. It also wasn't mentioned, but I was a lawyer for 30 years at the Department of Labor, not too far away from here. And when you are a lawyer and a kids writer, you are often asked, well, is it more fun to be a lawyer or a kids writer? And I go to schools and talk to kids all the time about the writing process. And every time I go, somebody comes up to me and says, the kids are so excited that you're here. And I can tell you, in 30 years of being a lawyer, no one ever said that to me. But the main reason I'm here is I was one of the judges in this contest. And there were 5 judges, one other who is here. I should introduce Maria Salvador in the front row. And I have lots of jobs, but this was a very hard job because all the essays were good. And in fact, I hope everybody picked up this program, which has the essays in the program. And they're very, very good. And so it was very, very hard to judge which ones were, quote, the best. But as I mentioned, I'm a sports guy. And you know that in games, there's got to be an umpire or a referee, and sometimes they make a call that is very, very close. And sometimes that makes the winners and the losers. But what I saw in all of the essays was a real love of reading, a real love of writing, and a real love of thinking about what they were reading. And if the kids who are in this contest keep reading, keep writing, and keep thinking, we're all going to be better off. Because we need more people, more kids doing reading, doing writing, doing thinking. So now I'm going to introduce the 16 winners from the local libraries. And then the 3 top people will read their essays later. But when your name is read, come on up here, and you get a certificate and a prize. So, I'm going to read the name and the library where they came from. William Bell from Francis A. Gregory Library. And by the way, apologies if I mispronounce anybody's name. I recently got a prize down in Louisiana, and it was written out as Fred Bauer. So these things happen. Amber Carpenter from Woodridge Library. Anu Desai from Palisades Library. Naomi Gertz from Capitol View Library. There we go. Mia Galtieri from the Tenley Friendship Library. Eleanor Holt from Southwest Library. Jessica Holloway, Tacoma Park Library. Charlotte Coe, Southeast Library. Monia Maynor from Juanita E. Thornton Shepherd Park. Martha Mazura Lamond Riggs Library. Ariana Merriweather, Daniel Shaw Library. Zahir Mohammed, Dorothy I. Height Benning Library. Olivia Wren, Petworth Library. Are we missing somebody? Catherine Sweeney, Parkland's Turner Library. William Wright, Cleveland Park Library. And also Holly Thill from Anacostia Library, who does not appear to be here. So thank you very much, all of you, and congratulations to all of you.
And now for the big moment, I'm going to call David Rubenstein to the podium to convene the 3 top winners, bronze, silver, and gold, for this year's contest. David?
I am also a lawyer by training, and I practiced law in Washington for many years, and every time I told my clients I might be doing something else, they always said to do so. Gave me a hint that I wasn't that good a lawyer. And so I'm very pleased to be here and not to be practicing law anymore. I'm also pleased that nobody has dug out my essays from the 5th and 6th grade, because I know they wouldn't win any awards. But I have read all of the essays, and I want to thank the winners for doing a much better job than I could have done at that age, or than I did do at that age, in writing essays about books they've read and that had influenced them. So I'd like to call the 3 winners together, 3 big winners up. Let me call them in order and have them read from their essay, and then I'll ask them a few questions. So first, can Mila Agin please come up? So go ahead and read. You can read there or here. You're tall enough, you can read right there.
My name is Mila Adjan. I'm 11 years old and I will be attending 6th grade in the upcoming school year, 2012-2013. The school I will be attending is Basis DC. This school is new in the DC area. During this summer, I have read several books, some challenging and some not so challenging. I like to read, so I'm never bored. However, the book that shaped me is the Ben Carson story, Gifted Hands. After reading Dr. Carson's biography, I found that I could relate to some of the things he had experienced as a child, like living in a single-parent household, having only one sibling that's brother, and be surrounded by friends and family and friends that would give us support in time of need. Dr. Carson got his inspiration from his mother. In his book, he recalls worship service or Bible lessons that discuss doctors doing missionary work helping people in Africa and India. Dr. Carson tells his mother, "That's what I want to do. I want to be a doctor. Can I be a doctor, Mother?" Well, it just so happened that my mother is a registered nurse, and when I was just 5 years old, I can remember asking my mother, "Mommy, can girls be doctors?" And my mother said to me in an excited tone, "Yes. Women, girls can be whatever they want to be." My mother would take me to work sometimes. There I would see elderly or sick and ask why were the people sick, but I was never afraid. My mother would talk to us about healthcare at home. As I became older, I like helping people. Reading this book has a life-changing impact. I volunteer sometimes at the adult daycare where my mother works on the weekends, serving meals, collecting dishes after meals. This gives me an opportunity to interact and be observant to others' needs. I know I was meant to work in healthcare, and I'm now more determined than ever. One day I would like to meet Dr. Ben Carson.
Do you want to be a doctor yourself?
Yes.
And do you know where you want to go to college or where you want to go to medical school?
No.
No. And what kind of doctor do you want to be?
A pathologist.
Pathologist. And what does a pathologist do?
He looks at dead people and find out how this person dies.
Okay. All right. Well, that's exactly right. So I want to congratulate you for this winning the third place award. Let me put this around you, if I could. Excuse me. Okay. There you go. And I'm going to give you the certificate. Okay, now our next winner is Alexander Constantino. So would he come up, please?
The book that changed my life, Going Solo by Roald Dahl, by Alexander Constantine. The ship that was carrying me from England to Africa was the SS Manitoba. So writes my favorite author, Roald Dahl, in his book, Going Solo. I was first introduced to Roald Dahl when I watched the movie Charlie and the Chocolate Factory. I then went to the library to read more books of Roald Dahl, and I chanced upon Going Solo. It was different from all his stories because it was an autobiography in which he writes letters to his mom about his experiences in a pilot in World War II and before that. I thought he was lighthearted even if he was in a difficult situation. It also made me like history more. The book also made me think about the consequences of war. For example, Roald Dahl wrote to his mom about his fellow pilots were killed in the last 2 weeks they were flying. Roald Dahl also experienced the horrors of war when he himself got crashed in the desert. But what was sadder was the civilians. There were a lot of innocent people who got affected by war by losing things they owned, like their property, but also people they loved. The book changed my outlook towards war. It made me question myself why there is such a thing as war. Before I looked at war because of the fun planes and ships and artillery that they used in World War II and the rest. But reading this book made me realize that the cool stuff I saw were destroying lives that could have lived to see their dreams. The book made me more compassionate towards people who are in war. I have an uncle in Afghanistan for some time, and he has 2 young children who are left here. What if he was a casualty? What will happen to my cousins? Or like Roald Dahl, he shot down a person. What if this is not an enemy? Or even if he is an enemy, should he get killed? Does he have a family who will miss him? War has a sad ending even though you're the winner. I also learned to be more tolerant for people who annoy me. I think that is how wars begin, by people annoying each other. If only people were more patient and compassionate and not hot-headed, then there would be no wars. I make it a point to work for world peace, and this would start in my own little world.
So tell me, what is the secret to avoiding being annoyed by people? I'd love to know.
Not annoy them yourself.
Okay. All right. Well, I'm going to try that. Now, when you were older, you were all of 10 years old, right? You're 10 years old. Okay. So when you get to be 20 or 30, what do you want to be? You want to be a fighter pilot or a writer or what?
Engineer.
An engineer. Okay. All right. It's a very good thing to do. What do engineers actually do? Do you know? No. Okay. Well, you'll figure it out in
But
time.
here's what I know about engineers.
Yes.
They always try to make objects better, even though they're already as good as the technology can make it.
Okay. All right. Well, that's pretty good. All right. Let me give you this. Congratulations. There's your prize. Very good. Good job. So I should have said that Mila Agin is from Basis, D.C., a charter school on 8th Street in the district, and that Alex Zander comes from Farmland Elementary School in Rockville. Now we have Elsa Perosi from Alice Deal Middle School on Fort Drive in Northwest Washington, D.C. Could you come up?
Of Calpurnia Tate. Yes. A book that shaped me was The Evolution of Calpurnia Tate by Jacqueline Kelly. It's a wonderful blend of the wonders of science and the life of a girl in 1899. There are two main themes in this book: the making of opportunity for women, and the fascinating world of science. Calpurnia represents both of these. Because Calpurnia lives in 1899, she's supposed to be a lady. She's expected to be good at sewing and housekeeping. Calpurnia prefers to explore and go on adventures. She's a lot like me in that way. Although she wants an educated, scientific life, Calpurnia's parents expect her to act like a reasonable girl. One Christmas, she is unwrapping a present and uncovers the word science. Thinking her parents have finally agreed to her goals, she delightedly finishes unwrapping. But the present turns out to be a book called The Science of Housewifery. Girls simply did not go to college, study insects, or hunt for new species in 1899. Although things have changed, women are still second-class citizens in many ways. There's been improvement, but mostly recently. I'm inspired by how Calpurnia handles the problem and keeps working towards her goals. She makes me think I should work to promote the rights of women for myself and everyone. Over the course of a year, Calpurnia is so changed by what she learns that you are inspired to try and be the same. She learns an incredible amount and even discovers, with the help of her grandfather, a whole new species of plant. Her success makes me want to be a scientist myself, and made me fascinated with the world of animals and plants. Because of Calpurnia, I do now want to be a scientist. Inspired by her, I started my own journal and recorded my natural observations in it. I explore the outdoors and study plants and animals. Although I have not read The Origin of Species, I have plenty of other books about science to inspire me. Most of all, I love animals. Watching and studying animals is one of my favorite things to do. The evolution of Calpurnia Tate has had a large impact on me and my life. Although it's set in another time, its lessons about equality and the pursuit of scientific understanding are still valuable today. There are many stories about 12-year-olds facing and overcoming their problems, but this is one that will stay with me forever.
So this is the gold prize winner, and congratulations for winning the gold prize. I wanted to ask you one or two questions. So, do you want to be a scientist when you grow up?
Yes, I do.
And what type of scientist?
A marine biologist.
And why do you want to be a marine biologist?
Well, I just think that the undersea world is incredibly fascinating, and it might have something to do with the fact that dolphins are my favorite animals.
Okay. And have you ever swum with the dolphins yet? No. All right. I'm sure you'll be able to do that at some point. Congratulations on winning the gold prize.
Thank you.
So I want to congratulate all the winners, and I want to thank everybody here for coming. And now let me have Roberta conclude the event. Roberta, thank you.
Thank you, and I think you can see why those of us who had the privilege of reading these essays before today's programs were so very excited about the program today. I would like to acknowledge Rachel Walker, who was one of the judges who's in the audience, if you'll just rise for a moment. And I'd also like Elsie, the Library of Congress's current teacher in residence, Ernestine Sweeting, to please rise. I know she's here. Thank you so much. And if we have any teachers in the audience, please find out about that extraordinary program. I know Ernestine would be happy to tell you about it. So I guess confessions are good for the soul from this podium this morning, because I too am a recovering lawyer. I guess we're going to be discouraging anybody from pursuing law, and we don't want to do that, I am sure. But I'll tell you my personal story. When I transitioned from being a lawyer to being a librarian, someone asked me if there was any difference, and I simply said, after thinking about it, not really, except the chairs are bigger. So, or smaller in that case, going from law to working with children. But what a privilege. I hope when you read the books on the list, you will notice something that struck me about the list, and that is that there are 17 different books of the 19, which really shows you the importance of reading broadly and diversely, and that these wonderful students today really read different books and have probably the benefit of different perspective, which is so important in a democracy. I'll ask everyone in the first two rows to rise so that we can give you a final formal applause. Please be seated. I'll take the opportunity to give our Chief Judge and our very, very honored convener a gift from the Law Library. It's a gavel pencil. We thank them so much for participating today. And again, we thank the students, parents, teachers, librarians at the DC Public Library, and everyone who has started this wonderful contest. We look forward to seeing you at next year's National Book Festival, where this program, we hope, will be expanded to a national level. And so please tell your friends in the DC Public Library system there's going to be even greater competition next year, so they should start sharpening their pencils right now. Have a wonderful rest of the book festival, and thank you so much for being with us today.
This has been a presentation of the Library of Congress. Visit us at loc.gov.